Good evening, everyone. My name is Catherine. I work with SEB Housing, and this is the lottery for Jade in Everett. Just going to give you some information before doing the actual drawing. I'll give you a second. I think some people are connecting here. So tonight we're going to run the lottery for the 17 affordable rental units at Jade. And if you have any questions during the meeting, you're encouraged to either type them into the chat that you have via Zoom, or you can unmute yourself and ask the question. And this meeting's being recorded, as you heard, and that's because anyone who wants to view it after the fact, you're able to do so because it will be shared with every lottery applicant. There'll be a link to our YouTube site so that everybody can see that. And so the question that just came in now through chat, yes, the results will be emailed to all the lottery applicants, and as I'll describe in just a minute, this is just the lottery drawing tonight, so the actual lottery, but the waiting list that need to be sorted after the lottery results are in will come to you by email tonight, tomorrow morning at the very latest. And that's really what you're interested in, because as of the drawing tonight, you're not going to know where you fall on those waiting lists. I first have to sort them by priority, which I'll describe. So you're not going to know a whole lot tuning in to this session, but it is a required portion of this. So just want to give you some background information on the lottery and how many applicants applied. All of this information is also going to be emailed to you, so don't worry about taking it down as a note or anything. Everybody should have a lottery application number if you were approved for this lottery, and that application number is in the form of a series of numbers. So if you were the first person to have an approved lottery application, your number was A.001, for example. So there's 17 total affordable units. There was 244 completed applications, so there's going to be 244 households in the lottery. You'll notice that the lottery application numbers actually go up to 254, and that is because we had to remove some duplicates, and there were some applicants who withdrew their application. So it's a little bit lower in terms of the total households that actually were approved for the lottery at 244. There's 5 studios. One of those studio apartments is a disabled accessible unit. The other is one other one is a hearing accessible unit. There was a total of 46 completed applications. 5 applicants reported requiring a disabled accessible unit. So those households will have priority for that disabled accessible unit. There are also 8 one-bedroom apartments. There was 75 total applications for those 1 bedrooms. 3 of those 1 bedrooms are disabled accessible, and there were 5 applicants who indicated that they have a need for the features of that those units. There's also 3 2-bedroom apartments. There was 96 applicants for those 2 bedrooms. Of those 3 2-bedrooms, 1 of them is disabled accessible, another is hearing impairment accessible. There was 4 applicants who indicated that they needed a disabled accessible unit, and 1 applicant who needs a hearing accessible unit. Those households are going to have priority for the accessible unit. There is 1 3-bedroom apartment that is also disabled accessible, and there was 9 households who indicated that they had a need for the features of that disabled accessible unit. For the 3 bedrooms, there was a total of 108 applicants for that 3 bedrooms. So that was the most popular unit size. So back when you completed your application, you indicated and we confirmed whether or not your household was a type 1, type 2, or type 3 household. And just keep in mind that for the 2-bedroom units, type 2 and 3 households are going to have priority over type 1 households, and type 3 households we're going to have top priority on the 3-bedroom waiting list. So that, again, is just because the affordable housing program is designed to give priority to households who actually need the larger unit. There's also local preference and priority for several of the affordable units. So if you answered yes to the local preference question on the lottery application, we confirmed that for you when you get your lottery application number. And so just keep in mind that some of those units will also have priority for households who have local preference. There's going to be 2 drawings tonight. I'm going to be using a website called random.org. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and you'll be able to see the lottery drawing instantaneously. It's basically the computer is going to sort these numbers, and so when I do the local preference drawing first, I'll insert 66 lottery application numbers into the computer because there's 66 applicants who indicated that they have local preference. And I'll share all this with you. I'll do a demo in just a second as well. And then when I do the drawing for all households, so everyone, not just those who have local preference, I'll insert the 244 application numbers. So having the drawing done digitally, it should keep everything truly random for us. So the randomization of those lottery numbers is going to be instantaneous. You'll see the results right away. And I'll share my screen now so you can see how that's going to work. So basically, it's a website, like I said, and I'll go to that website now just so you can see. I'm not going to do the drawing now. This is just, you're going to see exactly what the drawing will look like and what the website looks like when I pull this up. So I'm going to share my screen. And you'll be able to see I'm just going to random.org. Never had to verify that before. All right, so you should be able to see my screen. I'm going to click on List Randomizer. That's just the function that we're going to be using for the drawing. I'm going to type in the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 just as a demo. This isn't the lottery or anything like that. When the lottery application numbers are inserted into that box that you're seeing on your screen, it's going to be in the form that you're familiar with, so a dot, a series of numbers. So this will be how the drawing's done. All of the lottery numbers will be here. I'll click randomize and it'll fit a random order, and that's the lottery drawing. So every household who has a lottery application number is going to have a place in the lottery results and then eventually on at least one of the waiting lists that will be generated from these lottery results. So in this case, there was 5 numbers inserted. Number 2 was first, and down the line, as you can see. So I'm going to stop screen sharing now, but I am going to come back to that website in just a few minutes when I do the drawing. I just saw a couple questions in here. So if someone didn't get a number, does that mean they didn't get picked? Was there a separate email that indicated you weren't picked? So if you were approved for this lottery, you would have got an email from SEB Housing with, confirming your application was complete, confirming whether or not you applied for, a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, whatever it might be. And your lottery application number would be in that email in bold. So it would say your lottery application number is A.001, for example. If you didn't get that, you should have got a denial letter from one of my colleagues that you were working with. And that email would have just indicated that you were, say, over income or whatever it might be, if that was the case. So just a couple other things here before I do the drawings, sort of a few reminders for you. Like I said, after I do the drawing, the 2 drawings, the results of those drawings are going to allow me to sort the results onto the waiting list. So the waiting list determine the order in which households are going to be able to reserve an affordable apartment. So it's important to remember that tonight's drawing is not the final order of the waiting list. I'll be sorting those results after the call tonight, and you should get an email from me later on tonight, if not tomorrow morning. And what I'm doing is I'm sorting by household type, by local preference, whether or not your household needs a disabled accessible unit, and the priorities were listed in the information packet in terms of kind of the order of priority for each waiting list. So obviously not everyone who has a lottery application number for this lottery is applying for the same unit type as you are or unit size. So you're really not going to know until you get those waiting lists where you fall in terms of the order of priority. So after the lottery, that email that comes to you it will probably come from an email that is no reply at scbhousing.com or info@scbhousing.com. So just take a look at your email. If you see that you have something from us from either of those accounts, that's probably the result. And when you get that, you're going to have an email that has the waiting list attached to it. And there's going to be another attachment that just has kind of the breakdown of the applicants that we received. And when you receive that email, you're going to see that the top households on each waiting list are highlighted in green. And that's indicating that those households are going to immediately move forward to the next step in the process, which is to complete a lease application with the leasing office or the management team over at Jade. So your contact information will be shared with the leasing office if you're one of those top households, and you will also get their information after tonight as well. And so you'll need to coordinate filling out the lease paperwork with them. They're going to qualify you, hopefully, to rent, and that might include a credit check, reference check, that sort of thing. And keep in mind that the leasing office may invite more households than there are available units. Usually that's the case. If there's one 3-bedroom unit available, they're probably going to invite forward at least 4 or 5 households to go through the process, because it's rare that, the first person on the waiting list leases the first unit. Usually property managers have to kind of go further down the list to be able to lease all of their units. There's people who don't qualify for their lease screening. There's people who decide that they no longer want to rent there, and that sort of thing. If you are found lease eligible, though, if you're the top person on that waiting list, you'll have the first chance to select and reserve one of the apartments. If you're further down the list, you'll have the second chance if there's 2 units and so forth. And if you're not one of the top households on the waiting list after we sort them, you're not going to be contacted unless households ahead of you on the waiting list drop off, which again, certainly does happen. If you're not called at all after these waiting lists are generated and all of the units fill up, you're going to remain on the waiting list. Jade will do is supposed to reach out to everyone each year to confirm whether or not you want to remain on the waiting list. So you're not going to be purged from the waiting list if you're not able to initially lease up in one of these affordable units. You'll remain on the waiting list, and then they'll reach out to you to confirm if you want to stay there. And what that means is if units turn over, people move out, these units are remaining affordable. So if someone moves out, they need to backfill the unit and make sure that they have tenants on their waiting list who qualify. And then again, it's important to just be reminded that SCB Housing, we haven't gathered any of your income information yet. So you were qualified for this lottery just based off of what you self-reported on your lease application. So just remember that after that lease screening with the leasing office, you also need to come back to SCB Housing. You'll be referred back to us to submit all of your income, asset, and tax documentation for us. So that'll be one of the final steps in the process. You should have a documentation requirements guide that was sent to you, which kind of gives you an overview of what you can expect us to require of you, how many pay stubs, how many tax returns, that sort of thing. You'll have about 10 days to supply that information to us. It's a lot of info, though, and we always work with applicants to make sure that if something's missing on the first try, that we kind of go back and forth and make sure that you get a completed application into us. We've been told by the leasing office that the first available units at Jade will now be available in late March. That's about a month later than they initially anticipated, so you might have seen in the information packet that we had initially said late February, but it's now late March. So not too much of a delay there, though, after all of the screenings and things are still a few months away. So shouldn't be too much of a delay to start the first lease up. And then finally, before I run the lottery, just a reminder that any household who is living in a affordable apartment, we always just remind everyone that there is an annual recertification that happens with the leasing office. So you might want to maintain, some sort of a folder with your pay stubs, your updated tax returns, that sort of thing, just so you'll be ready to give that information to the leasing office when they ask for it towards the end of your first year of a lease. So that's kind of all I wanted to get through, just sort of some information before the drawing. Does anyone have any other questions before I go back into random.org and share my screen for the lottery drawing? All right, I'm going to share it again. And I'm also going to share a spreadsheet just to make it a little bit easier for you to see when I'm putting the numbers in here. So I'm sharing my screen again. And you should be able to see that same website that I was just on. I'm going to go down to list randomizer again. This is the spreadsheet I was talking about. So this is the 66 numbers here for the local drawing. It's going to look like it's 67, but there's a header, so that's why. And then on the next tab here, I have the general drawing. So this is all 244 lottery application numbers that will go into the general drawing once I get there. Okay, I have one other question here. Yep, good question. Every leasing office has their own stipulations for the credit score. I don't know what their range is to qualify applicants. They might use it as just one of the qualifiers. Maybe if you have certain assets, they they allow a different range depending on your income. But yeah, I don't have that information, but the leasing office will, and you'll have their information after tonight. All right, so I'm going to do the local drawing. I'm going to basically I'm going to copy and paste the 66 application numbers that I have highlighted here, and I'm going to put them into the list randomizer that is the same screen that I was in a few minutes ago. And this is 66 application numbers. These are the 66 households for Jade who applied and indicated that they have local preference, meaning they either live in Everett, work full-time in Everett, have a student in Everett Public Schools. So I'm going to click randomize. It's going to say there were 66 items in your list. I will go back to these results so you can see it. I just want to put them onto my spreadsheet here so I'm able to share it with you a little bit easier. 1 second here. Screen looks different than I'm used to. One moment. There we go. All right, so those are the results for the local drawing. I'll come back to that. I'm going to do both of the drawings, and then if you want me to look up where your number fell, there's only a few of you on this call, so I should be able to get through those fairly quickly, just to let you know where it was. General drawing, same thing. I'm taking all of the lottery application numbers. So this is everyone's lottery application number who was approved. And I'm going to go back to, I'm going to completely X out of that so we can get a completely new list randomizer here. And then I'm putting all of the numbers in. This is the general drawing for Jade and Everett. So this is 244 households, everyone who is approved for the lottery, whether or not you are local preference or not, everyone. Click randomize. And those are my results for the general list or the general drawing. So I'm going to do the same thing here and just make sure I have that information saved. And then I will scroll down a little bit so you can see the top numbers here. But then, like I said, I can look up your lottery application number for you as well. So I'm going to maximize this so you can see at least the first 20 here. I'm going to hide this just so it doesn't cause any confusion. This is the local drawing. If you were a local household, these are the top households on that local list. This is the general drawing. So the first lottery application number drawn in the general drawing was A.0012, followed by 22, 237, etc. And I'm going to use these results to populate the waiting list for each of the units. So again, if you want to type your lottery application number in to the chat or unmute yourself and let me know what that is, I can look up your placement on the results for you. Again, this isn't the waiting list yet, though. It's just you'll know whether or not you're towards the top of the result or towards the bottom. Yep. So I'm gonna look on both sheets, even though I know some of you might not have an entry on the local list. So A.0018. So number 18, A.0018. You were 43rd on the local drawing and 87th on the general drawing. A.0210, 210. You were 163rd, 163 on the general drawing. All right. And then A.0119, you were 37th in the general drawing. You weren't on the local list, it looks like. And then 0238, you were 15th in the general drawing. 0172, you were 56th in the general drawing. And I think that's it. So again, I know it's kind of confusing just because the lottery results themselves don't tell you a whole lot tonight. You don't know who ahead of you applied for the same bedroom size, etc. But you know, it will become clear when I send the lottery results to you later on tonight. And so I appreciate you joining in, and we'll be in touch shortly. Like I said, you'll get those lottery results, meaning the waiting list, in your inbox by tomorrow morning at the latest. Have a good night, everyone.